Welcome to the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube. This is our Awakening Together weekly gathering. Each and every week we have a different minister who speaks. If you'd like to attend our services live, please visit our website awakening-together.org. Click on Online Sanctuary on the main menu. Then, How to Enter the Sanctuary. Our services are held Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary.
Thank you, Sana. Welcome, everyone, to Awakening Together Sanctuary on this May 8th, 2022, and Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. So as we begin our service, let me share with you our purpose and core values. We are an assembly of equals, joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self within the appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols. We seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. And the core value I've selected for today's homily is core value number 1. We trust everyone is led by unique inner guidance to one experience called awakening, which is the realization of one true self. We live this value by supporting one another on different paths to awakening. And and that's the prayer of all of our hearts. I want to know you more. And so for the invocation, I want to share with you from NTI, Matthew chapter 6, the prayer that Spirit revealed to Regina. The Father knows that it is the heart that leads his Son to him. And so pray like this, according to what you find in your heart. Father, let me know you. Let your kingdom dawn upon my mind, that I may be led by your will and become as one with it. Let me hear your word within my mind. Let my lessons be given me that I may be closer to you through the actions of my day. Let me forgive myself as I know you have. Let me see my brothers as innocent as they truly are. Let us watch our minds for evil thoughts that would trick and blind us to the light within. And let us let those thoughts go so that they may not cloud our minds from knowing the truth. Amen. So it's time for our reading this morning. And before I turn it over to Abigail Edwards, who is our reader today, the reading comes from NTI James, chapter 1, and also from A Course in Miracles, Manual for Teachers. What are the characteristics of God's teachers? Trust is the foundation. So, trust in God's guidance is essential for growth on the spiritual path. So what is trust? And how do we know if we are truly trusting? And what does that look like? So with that introduction, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Abigail for the reading.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, George, for asking me to read this morning. The first reading, I'm reading from the 2017 edition of the Course in Miracles, which is from the Circle of Atonement.
The reading comes from the Teacher's Manual. It's on page 1576 through 79. What are the characteristics of God's teachers? The surface traits of God's teachers are not at all alike. All differences among the sons of God are temporary. Nevertheless, in time it can be said that the advanced teachers of God have the following characteristics, and the first characteristic is trust. This is the foundation on which their ability to fulfill their function rests. Perception is the result of learning. In fact, perception is learning, because cause and effect are never separate. The teachers of God have trust in the world because they have learned it is not governed by the laws the world made up. It is governed by a power that is in them, but not of them. It is this power that keeps all things safe. It is through this power that the teachers of God look upon a forgiven world. When this power has once been experienced, it is impossible to trust one's own petty strength again. Who would attempt to fly with the tiny strength of a sparrow when the mighty wings of an eagle have been given him? And who would place his faith in the shabby offerings of the ego when the gifts of God are laid before him? What is it that induces them to make the shift? First, they must go through what is called a period of undoing. This need not be painful, but it is usually experienced so. It seems as if things are being taken away, and it is rarely understood initially that their lack of value is merely being recognized. How can lack of value be perceived unless the perceiver is in a position where he must see things in a different light? He is not yet at a point at which he can make the shift entirely internally. And so the plan will sometimes call for changes in what seem to be external circumstances. These changes are always helpful. When the teacher of God has learned that much, he goes on to the second stage. Next, the teacher of God must go through a period of sorting out. This is always somewhat difficult because, having learned that the changes in his life are always helpful, he now must divide all things on the basis of whether they increase the helpfulness or hamper it. He will find that many, if not most of the things he valued before will merely hinder his ability to transfer what he has learned to new situations as they arise. Because he has valued what is really valueless, he will not generalize the lesson for fear of loss and sacrifice. It takes great learning to understand that all things, events, encounters, and circumstances are helpful. It is only to the extent to which they are helpful that any degree of reality should be accorded them in this world of illusion. The word value can apply to nothing else. The third stage through which the teachers of God must go through can be called a period of relinquishment. If this is interpreted as giving up the desirable, it will engender enormous conflict. Few teachers of God escape this distress entirely. There is, however, no point in sorting out the value from the valueless unless the next obvious step is taken. The third step is rarely, if ever, begun until the second is complete. Therefore, the period of overlap is apt to be one in which the teacher of God feels called upon to sacrifice his own best interest on behalf of truth. He has not realized as yet how wholly impossible such a demand would be. He can learn this only as he actually does give up the valueless. Through this, he learns that whether he anticipated he anticipated grief, he finds a happy lightheartedness instead. Where he thought something was asked of him, he finds a gift bestowed on him. Now comes a period of settling down. This is a quiet time in which the teacher of God rests a while in reasonable peace. Now he consolidates his learning. Now he begins to see the transfer value of what he has learned. Its potential is literally staggering, and the teacher of God is now at the point in his progress in which he can see in it his whole way out. Give up what you do not want and keep what you do. How simple is the obvious and how easy to do. The teacher of God needs this period of respite. He has not yet come as far as he thinks. Yet when he is ready to go on, he goes with mighty companions beside him. Now he rests a while and gathers them before going on. He will not go on from here alone. The next stage is indeed a period of unsettling. Now must the teacher of God understand that he did not really know what was valuable and what was valueless. All that he really learned so far was that he did not want the valueless and that he did want the valuable. Yet his own sorting out was meaningless in teaching him the difference. The idea of sacrifice, so central to his thought system, had made it impossible for him to judge. He thought he had learned willingness, but now he sees that he does not know what the willingness is for. And now he must attain a state that may remain impossible for a long, long time. He must learn to lay all judgment aside and ask only that he be taught what he really wants in every circumstance. Were not each step in this direction so heavily reinforced, it would be hard indeed. And finally, there is the period of achievement. It is here that learning is consolidated. Now what was seen as merely shadows before becomes solid gains, to be counted on in all emergencies as well as tranquil times. Indeed, the tranquility is their result, the outcome of honest learning, consistency of thought, and full transfer. This is the stage of real peace, for here is heaven's state fully reflected. From here, the way to heaven is open and easy. In fact, it is here. Who would go anywhere if peace of mind is already complete? And who would seek to change tranquility for something more desirable? What could be more desirable than this? The next reading is from NTI, from the Holy Spirit's interpretation of James. And this is NTI James chapter 1 from page 419. Greetings, my beloved. Trust is your bedrock. I ask you to hold to trust in all things. Trust is your bedrock. I ask you to hold to trust in all things. Trust the healing process, for it brings to you that which is best for your healing. Trust it and accept it in joy. Trust your own mind, for it does know the true desire of your heart, and it will rest that your true desire may be practiced. Trust yourself, capital S, for it is one, and its true purpose is only one. There is no division within yourself. There is only the illusion of division, and illusion is nothing at all. Trust is the bedrock of your faith. For what you trust in, you also put your faith in. Trust and faith are inseparable. Trust and faith are inseparable. Do not look at your false self and the circumstances of the world, putting faith and trust, which may seem like fear, in those circumstances. To do this is to put faith in illusion. With faith placed in illusion, illusion is what you see and experience. This is not the experience of your joy, because this is not what you truly want. Put faith in your truth by trusting your true desire. Listen within, with true desire as your focus. In this way, you shall know what to do. Put all of your trust in what you hear, and your faith is given back to yourself. Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, means blessed are you who remember to use all things to practice the true desire of the heart. For with practice and focus, your true desire stands clear within your sight until the naturalness of your being is as natural in your awareness as true desire is now in the quiet of your heart. God is the truth within you. It does not tempt. God is. But God can be denied through your desire to do so. Do not be unaware of this desire. It is there within your mind. But it is a false desire that lingers from a moment of the past. In your weariness, you follow it in habit. But in your alertness, you remember to place this worn-out desire aside. Do not deny your truth, because it does not change. In your denial, you misunderstand what you do, and you experience your misunderstanding in unhappiness. My dear brothers, take note of this and store it in your mind and heart. Be quick to listen to the true desire of the heart, and you are quick to realize the joy of your truth. Be quick to listen to the true desire of your heart, and you are quick to realize the joy of your truth. Your truth is joy. So whenever you are not joyful, you are misunderstanding what you are. Do not merely listen to my words without practicing what I say. To listen but not to practice is to be like a man who looks in the mirror but then goes away and forgets what he saw. Remember that which you see as you listen to me. Practice it with your every breath, and you do remember the truth of what you are. Know thyself. Know thyself. This is your only purpose. Hold tight to your purpose. Let go of everything that is not of this purpose. And to your purpose, you are true. Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. Perfectly read. So we're talking about trust. And I was given this topic when I saw the schedule and I saw that I was speaking. And this trust came into my mind. And I knew several weeks ago that this was going to be our subject today, trust. Reverend Jackie spoke last week, and she talked somewhat about trust. Spirit is our guide. We think that we have something to do with it. But the reality is we are always being guided, even when we don't realize that we are guided. So let me share from the Bible, Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. And then from Nisargadatta, Maharaj, instead of searching for what you do not have, find out what it is that you never lost. And so Spirit is guiding each one of us as we listen to these words. It's guiding me, teaching a lesson that I, above all, need to receive. And it's teaching you. And each one of us receives this message in our own way, in the way that is most meaningful for us. So let's look at this concept of trust. And the one thing that I've come to realize is George doesn't really know anything. Now, George thinks he knows the ways of the world. He's very comfortable in his understanding of the ways of the world. And yet, that is just an illusion, the illusion of separation. I like to refer to it as the delusion, illusion, and even though we are having this experience of being a separate individual with a separate story, we are perfect. We're perfectly where we're supposed to be in this instant. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to become. We are simply holding that desire to realize the truth of who we truly are, to realize that we don't need to search for anything, that we already have everything. And yet the journey seems like a search. It seems as though as we travel through time with a sense of the past and a concept of the future, we think that we are looking for something. I can tell you, if you have found awakening together, you are truly blessed. You think about how many people in the world, the billions of people in the world, a very small percentage, even have the thought that there's something other than what they have and what they see. We at least have that thought that the world is not true. And so let's look at James again and go through this. Trust is your bedrock. I ask you to hold to trust in all things. So regardless of what seems to be happening to you in the world, just trust that it's exactly the way it's supposed to be. You have a spiritual guide that is guiding you perfectly. You're being guided perfectly, even through the confusion and the suffering and the angst. You are perfectly guided. And that's true for every person in the world, regardless of where they're at. They're on a journey. And it's not so much they are on a journey, it's that we are all on the same journey. It just looks differently. You know, the Course says in there somewhere that it appears that some are ahead and some are behind. And that's just part of the illusion. So what are we asked to do? Trust in the healing process. For it brings to you that which is best for your healing. Trust it and accept it in joy. You know, one of the favorite parables in the Bible, you know, Jesus spoke in parables, and he only spoke in parables as he preached and taught. And I've come to realize that, in a sense, the entire message in the Bible is a parable. But in the New Testament, there's the parable of the prodigal son. The prodigal son who takes his share of the inheritance and goes off to a strange land and lives the high life. He thinks that that is a source of joy and happiness and excitement, and he is just having a great time. You know, think about yourself, you know, as you go through your life. And, you know, some lives we're all different, but think about the times that you really, really are enjoying yourself. You may have the thought, gee, okay, this is where I truly should be. This is where I'm going. It's, you know, the thought of separation, the story is a journey. And so we have our thoughts about what we want to accomplish, where we want to be, where we want to go, what we want to do. And it's a very self-centered process, each one of us, regardless of what it looks like. And so the prodigal son, of course, at some point runs out of money. He fritters it all away. Just as we look at life, what is the value in this life, really? The value is time. The time is trickling away, you know, like the sand in an hourglass that is slowly pouring out. Now, that time, that sand, that hourglass is hidden from us. We know that it's flowing by, and yet we don't know when it's going to run out. Reminds me of another little story in the Bible, that the rich man had so much. He had accumulated over his lifetime great wealth, so much so that he tore down his old barns and built up new and bigger barns. And, you know, you think we have this concept of retirement, that we're going to work most of our life and then we're going to relax and enjoy our few remaining years. Well, the rich man was so satisfied with himself. He felt like he was on top of the world. He had everything that he could possibly want. And the Lord said to him, "You fool, for tonight your soul will be required of you." And so here he was, having spent his entire life focused on what he thought was important. And just as he felt that he could relax and enjoy it all, it's taken away. But the reality is, It's an illusion. This life is an illusion. As we watch a television program, we understand, or a movie, we understand that it's a story. If we read a book, or I like to listen to books on Audible or something. As we listen to a story, we realize that it's just a story. It's an illusion. It's entertainment. And our life is no different. It's a little bit harder to make that stretch and say, well, okay, I really know that this life is just an illusion. But do we really? And so what I've come to realize is I don't really know anything. But there's something within me that trusts. I have not perfect trust, but I have certainly seen trust grow in the guidance that I receive. Where am I going? I don't really know what it looks like until I get there, nor do any of us. We just know that we are on the right path. And, think about where you may have been earlier in your life. I mean, I certainly, the first 2/3 of my life, I had no clue, not a clue, not a sense of direction. I just let life happen. And as I look back, it's like, we always think, well, gee, if we had do-overs, we'd do it differently. Well, that's not part of the story script. We don't get to rewrite it for this story. So, trust yourself, capital S, for it is one, and its true purpose is only one. We don't have an individual purpose. We have a collective purpose. Every single individual that we perceive to be different is really just an aspect of our true being. So there is no division within yourself. The self is one, and it's only an illusion of division. And illusion is nothing at all. So trust is the bedrock of your faith. For what you trust in, you also put your faith in. Trust and faith are inseparable. So put faith in your trust by trusting your true desire. So why am I where I'm at today? The only answer I have is because I want to be. I have the desire to be. And each one of you have the desire to be. You are here by divine appointment, as it's said in the Unity Church. You're here by divine appointment. You may think that it's for a different reason, but it's by divine appointment. Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, means blessed are you who remember to use all things to practice the true desire of the heart. The language of the heart is a different language. And, the intellectual. Our intellect is really two different minds. It is the mind of the subconscious, the programming. We have a much easier way of conceptualizing where we're at today because of modern technology Computers have a program. And we're told that our programming is basically done. We have our basic programming by the time we're 7 or 8 years old. As a child, from babyhood to 7 or 8 years old, we are being programmed. We're being programmed by the world around us, by the culture we're in, the parents we have, the people that we interact with. This is all part of our programming. Now, unfortunately, about 70 or 80% of that programming is negative. It's fear-based. And so from a conscious intellect standpoint, we think we have an understanding of the world around us. We are just a product of our programming. And as time goes on, everything that we see, we project out of our minds that programming. We think we see something outside of us that is different than what is inside of us. But the reality is, it's all through the projection from the mind. So, God is the truth within you. It does not tempt. God is. But God can be denied through your desire to do so. Now, there again, I've got to think that regardless of where we're at, it's all perfect. So when we're in this state of the confusion, delusion, illusion, this is an experience that Spirit has chosen to have. And he's having it through umpteen billion individuals. And who knows what else, since we're human beings, we're focused upon, we're the top dog. We're the best of what is. That's just the thought. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. We don't really know. I don't know. So, I watch my time here because I have a tendency to go on too long sometimes. So be quick to listen to the true desire of the heart, and you are quick to realize the joy of your truth. So as we learn how to focus on the heart, as we learn how to listen to the heart, and how do we do that? We do it by being here, right now, this moment, and we can feel the message that's coming to us from the heart. Your truth is joy. And so when you're experiencing joy in you, and that joy is coming from your heart, whenever you are not joyful, you are misunderstanding what you are. So do not merely listen to my words without practicing what I say. We live in a culture that values information, that values trying to understand what's going on. And yet, all of that information is just part of the illusion. Know thyself. How do we get to know ourselves? By listening to the heart. And by holding that desire in our heart to allow Spirit to guide us, So this is your only purpose. Hold tight to your purpose. Let go of everything that is not of this purpose. And to your purpose, you are true. So that's the message that we get from James. Now let's go over to A Course in Miracles here. You know, it's been many years since I picked up the course, and I've read it cover to cover. I spent several years going through the daily lessons, in part because that was a whole lot easier than trying to read the course, the text, which I found to be very confusing. When I first started and picked up the book, I started reading the text and I was thinking, man, this makes no sense to me whatsoever. But being a simple man and liking things simple and easily understood, I thought, well, hey, the lessons seem much simpler. And so let me start by focusing on the lessons. So I finally got through the whole book. It took me several years. And in this section called the Manual for Teachers, when I first picked it up, I thought, well, I don't need that because I'm not a teacher. Now, you may have the same feeling. I'm not a teacher, but the truth is you are a teacher of God. Whether you realize it or not, you are a teacher. It doesn't matter whether you ever present in public, whether you ever deliver a homily or teach in the sanctuary or teach anywhere else. You know, it reminds me of the admonition of the parents, do what I tell you to do, not what I do. But as teachers of God, people see what we do. Kind of reminds me of Byron Katie after she had her awakening experience. She went home and she didn't have any direction to be a teacher, but people saw she was different. When she spoke, they were drawn to her message. In a sense, she was guided to be a teacher through the process of just being who she was. Now, that doesn't mean that each one of us, each one of you are going to be teachers in that aspect, in that sense. But you're a teacher to anyone you interact with. And what are you teaching? You're teaching that there's joy in your heart. People see and identify with the desire to feel joy. And as you awaken, you are a reflection of that to them. So anyway, in the Manual for Teachers, there is a section on what are the characteristics of God's teachers. And number one characteristic that they started with, and I'm sure that, they, as Spirit wrote this book, it's not necessarily that trust is the most important, but that was listed first, trust. This is the foundation. And I'm going to change the language a little bit. This is the foundation on which your ability to fulfill your function rests. Trust. When this power has once been experienced, it is impossible to trust one's own petty strength again. So let's go back to what I told you. I was given this topic, trust, several weeks ago. Reverend Jackie gave a message that in part talked about trust last week. You know, I see the hand of Spirit in that guidance. And, you know, George doesn't have a message, but George has the desire and the trust that Spirit will flow through this homily for George's benefit as well as everyone else's benefit. What is it that induces us to make that shift? And so, as Abigail read, there's several steps. You know, it's really about the journey. It's really about the journey. And Spirit has chosen to come into this world to experience the delusion of illusion and then to return. It's sort of like a cycle. Spirit comes into this realm of time and space, which it created to have an experience, to have a journey, and to find joy, to find the true meaning of all that is, to experience the true meaning of all that is. And so we may go through a period of undoing. That undoing is a confusion that, well, gee, maybe I don't really know what's going on here. It doesn't need to be painful, but for many of us, it is. It's a painful experience. Then we go through a period of sorting out. And this is always difficult because having learned that the changes in our life are always helpful, we must now decide all things on the basis of whether they increase helpfulness or hamper it. And there again, we do not know. It takes great learning to understand that all things, events, encounters, and circumstances are helpful. Well, as an individual, we don't necessarily feel that way. We don't really feel that the unpleasant things that are going on, as we perceive them, are helpful. The reality is we do not know what is valuable and what is not. That's part of the sorting out process. Then we go through a stage of relinquishment, a period of relinquishment, and this is interpreted as giving up the desirable. So, you know, Regina has given us such a perfect example of what that looks like as she followed guidance, giving up a corporate career in which, from a world stand of view, she was very successful, very accomplished, and Spirit led her through a series of steps. It was a period of relinquishment, and her willingness to follow guidance was the key. She didn't necessarily understand or agree or want to make these changes from a standpoint of being an individual, but she did it anyway. That was her guidance, and she didn't know why. She did not know why. She was doing what she was guided to do. And yet, step by step, it unfolded to the Regina that we know today. So there's a period of settling down. You get into a groove, and you get settled in, and you start to have some confidence in your guidance. And then there's a period of unsettling. And finally, a period of achievement. And so, as human beings, we value achievement. We like to see that we're making progress. And yet, progress can be very stressful, very confusing. And so George is to the point, I don't know what anything is for. I don't know what anything is for. George is very comfortable in the world. But I also have the realization that the world is just an illusion. And, as I get older, it's like, I have the realization that hourglass, the sand, is running out. And somehow I'm okay with that. If I were to die this moment, I trust that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I may, George may never have this awakening, whatever that is. It's like, well, gee, it sounds good and I think I'd like it. And that's okay, because George is just a thought in the mind of God. So, well, I think I'm about done. Let's see here. So let's go back to Nisargadatta. I'll tell you what, it took me a long time of practicing Nisargadatta before I could say that. Instead of searching for what you do not have, find out what it is that you never lost. And so let me read the message I sent and Spirit shared with me this morning. I said, Holy Spirit, what would you like to tell me about trust? And this is the response. The mind cannot trust anything outside of its own understanding. You, on the other hand, are not the mind. Even though you may think the mind is just an extension of yourself, the little s, and you feel a confidence in your understanding of the thought of being a separate self, that is not who or what you are. You are so much more. Everything is now, and truth is only revealed now. Let go of everything you think you know, and let me guide you in each instant. Embrace not knowing what the next step looks like, and just let it unfold. You already have it all. Thanks, Sana. And Sana has posted a link in the chat for if you'd like to make a donation for Awakening Together. That is how we keep the lights on and everything functioning, so that we can continue to share this message of love and peace and joy with all that are willing to listen. So, well, we're right at the end of the time. We normally would do some sharing, but I talked too long.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.